the Chassid forgot telling stories. It's a little bit long, but I'll try to make it short. Once there was a Chassid that the Bal Shem Tov told him that his job is to go around and telling stories about the Bal Shem Tov. And that's how he'll make his livelihood. He'll make his living. So the Chassid heard what the Bal Shem Tov did, and that's what he did. He went around from place to place and he told stories about the Bal Shem Tov. And people loved the stories. And from that, he got work. And he would, sometimes people would give him money for his telling stories. And and he would get other jobs, other work. People would trust him. People would this. Anyway, that was his main thing, telling stories about the Bal Shem Tov. He heard that there was one rich man that said that he will pay 1 ruble for every Bal Shem Tov story told him. And he'll pay 1,000 rubles, which 1,000 rubles is like $100,000 or something. If he hears this one particular story that he's waiting for. One particular story that he's waiting for. And he told the people he'll pay for their travel expenses and they can stay by his house. Just he wants to hear this particular story. So this Chassid heard about this. This is wonderful. This is his job. He knows hundreds and hundreds of stories about Shem Tov firsthand. He was there. So he travels to this rich man's house. And the rich man is very happy to see him. And he arrives there on on a Wednesday. And he rests up. And the rich man gives him a place where he can take a bath, gives him good food, pays his money, the travel money. Says, okay, now you have stories to tell. Yes, I have hundreds of stories. Every story you get a ruble, and every a ruble is like, who knows, $100. And if you tell me the right story that I want, 1,000 rubles. He says, okay. They sit down. He says, okay, story about the Bal Shem Tov. He said, okay, here's a story about the Bal Shem Tov. I was there firsthand. Once, and he forgot. He forgot. He couldn't think of one Bal Shem Tov story. The Bal Shem Tov once got in his wagon, and no, that's not the story. The Bal Shem Tov once told his pupils that's not, and he couldn't remember. So the rich man said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just calm down. Here, take a ruble. I'll give you a ruble. Anyway, I see that you're really trying. I believe that you know a lot of stories. And probably from the maybe tomorrow, Thursday comes, doesn't remember anything. Nothing. Blank. Friday, Shabbos, the man remembers absolutely nothing, no matter how he tries. He sits with a piece of paper, with a pen, maybe he'll write it down, it'll come to him, blank. Can't remember one story. And as soon as he starts the story, it gets confused with another story. It gets confused. After Shabbos, he tries again. Yom Rishon. I'm sorry, I just don't remember any stories. What can I tell you? I'm sorry, you can have your money back. The rich man says, no, I believe you. This is from heaven. Here, I'll take you to the train station or to the wagon, whatever it is, to take you back. So he drives him down to the place where the wagons are, the taxis. And the man suddenly says, oh, I remember a story. Or maybe it was the train. He got to the train. I don't know if there were trains in those days. I have to look and see. But anyway, I remember a story. Tell you the story. He says, okay, tell me the story right now. We'll go back to your house. No, tell me the story right now. So he says, okay. Stories like this. Once I was with the Bal Shem Tov. And the Bal Shem Tov told everybody to get into his carriage and that we're traveling somewhere. It was right before Shabbat. We all got into the carriage, 10 pupils with the Bal Shem Tov. The Bal Shem Tov told the driver to drop the reins and to turn around. The carriage started flying. 2 minutes later, it landed somewhere, and it was in the middle of this big town square, and it was empty. There were no people there. And we saw that they were building this big sort of a stage, and around it they were building all these like statues from the church, church things from this other religion. Big statues over there. And the Bal Shem Tov said, come with me quick. So we left this big empty marketplace. It looked like they were preparing for something, a speech or a performance or something. And the Bal Shem Tov took us to the Jewish quarter where the Jews were living. You had to go through this there was a big door, a wall all around it. The Jews were separated from everybody else. They went to a door. The Bal Shem Tov started knocking on the door, knocking. He's knocking on the door for a minute. Suddenly a little tiny hole opens up. A man opens up the door. They hear all these bolts opening up. A man says, "Come in, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Come in, quick, come in." So the Bal Shem Tov and his pupils came in, and the man, the owner of the house, said, "Are you mad? What are you doing on the streets? Don't you know that today is Easter? Easter is the big holiday of the Goyim, the church, and that's the day that they preach about hating the Jews, about how the Jews are evil people." So what are you doing in the streets? It's Easter. You're dangerous. So listen, you can come down with me into the. I mean, it's a small place. It'll be really. Bal Shem Tov said, "No, it's no problem. We don't have to come down. We'll wait over here." He says, "No. They'll break into the house. You don't know them. They'll wreck everything." That's why I had to bolt the doors. The Bal Shem Tov said, "No problem." He turns to one of his pupils, the Bal Shem Tov, turns to one of his pupils and he says, "Go back into the marketplace and go up to the priest, the bishop, that's standing and speaking, pull on his robe and tell him, in the middle of his speech, pull on his robe and tell him that the Bal Shem Tov wants to speak to him. And then lead him back to where." So he says, "Okay," the owner of the house says, "That's insane. If they see a religious Jew, they'll tear you apart. You don't know these people." The Bal Shem Tov said, "No, I know what I'm doing." So the homeowner just can't believe it. He opens up all the bolts of the door. This Chassid goes out. By the time he gets back to the marketplace, it's filled with people. They're all standing there. There's these big torches lit. There's these statues of Avodah Zorah all over the place. And the stands up on the stage, the bishop, he's got this red garment on with this big red hat on. And he starts to talk about how bad the Jews are, and how the Jews are evil, and how the Jews steal, and how the Jews, you can't trust them, and we've got to get rid of the Jews, and they stole all of our money, and they're tricking us, and they're poisoning our water. And the crowd is going, yeah. So this Chassid thinks, wow, this is obviously my last day on earth. And that's what the Bal Shem Tov wants. Okay, everybody dies sometime, so at least I'll die doing a holy thing. So he says, "Shema Yisrael," and he starts pushing his way through the crowd. Here we have a Jew got a big hat with a beard, with payas and tzitzis coming on the long coat. And all these goyim are all there with tattoos, and they're big, huge guys with earrings on, and they all have like pitchforks and knives and swords. And this priest is saying, "We have to get the Jews." So he just pushes through the crowd, and it seems nobody seems to notice him. He gets up to the stage, and there's the priest is there talking, this bishop, he's got this long red gown, and he pulls on the gown, like the Bal Shem Tov said, and the priest looks down at him, and his eyes just widen with anger. And before he can say anything, the priest can say, "Kill him, get him." This Chassid says to the priest, "The Bal Shem Tov wants to see you." As soon as the bishop hears these words, all of a sudden his face falls. He gets serious. He looks like he's afraid. And he says to the man, "Tell the Bal Shem Tov, not now. When I finish talking, I'll come to see him. Not now." So the man says, okay, he doesn't want to come now. So he backs out, and nobody seems to pay attention to this Jew. He runs back to the house, knocks on the door. They open the door. The Bal Shem Tov says, "No, where is he?" He said, I pulled on his gun. He said, "Not now." The Bal Shem Tov said, "Go back and tell him that he doesn't come now. It's going to be too late." And so the Chassid says, okay. Goes back to the marketplace, and now the crowd is really going wild. They're screaming, "The Jews, the Jews, Jews, take your Jews, kill the Jews." And he says, okay. Again, he says, this Chassid says, "Shema Yisrael," pushes his way through the crowd, goes up to the priest, and the priest now is all red, and he's screaming, raising his arms, and screaming, there are the Jews on it. He pulls on his gown again, he said, he looks down at him, he wants to say, tear him apart. He says to the Bal Shem, to the bishop, the Bal Shem Tov said, if you don't come now, it's too late. The bishop suddenly, his whole face changed. He became all white. And he announced to the crowd, I am receiving a message from the Lord. I must be alone. Lied to them. Meanwhile, the Chassidic pushes away out of the crowd. The bishop goes around the whole crowd and follows this Chassid. And the whole crowd doesn't even look at the bishop. They're all standing there looking where he was. The bishop goes after, this is all the story this person is telling to this rich man, right? This is the story he's telling to the rich man. He goes up to the house where the Bal Shem, they knock on the door, and they open up the door, and the Bal Shem Tov says, take off all of your crosses, all of your statues, all of your things. He takes everything off. Take off your hat, also has this big sign on it. You can come in. He comes in standing like this. The bishop, he's the head of all these thousands and thousands of people. Who is this little Jew? He sees the Bal Shem Tov. As soon as he sees the Bal Shem Tov, he falls on his knees and he starts to cry. The Bal Shem Tov says, come with me into this room. He went with him there was another room there, closed the door. After about a half an hour, he came out. And he came out, didn't have any of his clothes, his bishop's clothes on anymore. He took them all off. He came out and he ran away. And that's it. That's the end of the story. I don't know anymore. The rich man just sat there. His whole body was shaking. He said, that's the story I've been waiting to hear. You told me the story that I've been waiting to hear 20 years. That story. You freed me. Said, I was the bishop. I was born a Jew. My parents died when I was very young. The church took me in and they taught me how to hate Jews. They taught me that the Jews were the problem of the world. And I was very intelligent. I rose up in the ranks. Finally, I became a bishop, a cardinal, who knows what. And that was in my heart, to hate Jews. That was going to be the answer to the world's problems if there was no more Jews. Suddenly I saw you, and I reminded myself, wait, I'm a Jew. I heard the name, the Bal Shem Tov, and that name always made me afraid. Now I went to the Bal Shem Tov, and he told me, I went back there 20 years ago. The Bal Shem Tov told me that I should leave the church, run away, go to a strange town. He told me where to go, and to do tshuva, and that I should go and live alone. I took a lot of money from the church also. He took a lot of money back to the church, took a lot of money. I should live alone until I hear this story being told. Now you told me the story, I'm free. I can be back with people again. I can get married. I can have a family. I can be a normal person, because now I know that Hashem has forgiven all the bad that I have done. That is a Bal Shem Tov story for today. See you at 3 o'clock.